Welcome to the learning of Torah. We're starting the gates of light, the introduction. A lot of people avoid introductions, they find them boring, they skip them and they go right to the chapters, but in Kabbalah, in Torah literature, the introduction sometimes is the piece of pie, the topping, the frost, everything is in this introduction. So it's not to be avoided. In fact, it can be the juiciest part. So we're going to start with the gates of light, the introduction, and just to open our minds into the idea of prayer and how great are the names of Hashem, and how great was the wisdom of the sages of the great assembly in King David when he utilized the names of Hashem, and also their power, and also to fear them, to fear God, and to not use God's name in vain. So Rav Gedaliah was a tremendous Kabbalist. I'm going to get right into it here. Hear the sweetness. You, my brother and soulmate, have asked me to show you the pathway to the names of the ever-blessed Hashem, so that you may derive what you will from them and reach the place that you desire. Even though your enthusiasm is far greater than your question, I still feel compelled to divulge to you the way of the light is disseminated and how Hashem wants us to reach it. When you have learned this, then Hashem will answer when you call. You will be one of those who are truly close to Him, and you will love Him with all your heart. Yes, you will delight in Yukevavke, and He will grant you all that you ask. Beautiful introduction. So he's saying that by understanding the names of Hashem, you're then able to go and channel your prayers for the right gates, and have an understanding of what you're praying, what you're saying. Not just the meaning of the words, but also what channels you're directing and what type of effect it can have on high. So surely you must be aware, even if you haven't heard, of the divine beings in the world of the Yukevavke and the Yukevavke of the universe, for whom the upper and lower worlds tremble and from whose dread the earth shudders. As it says in Nahum, before His fury who can stand? Who will rise when He is angry? Who puts no trust in the Holy One, and the heavens are not guiltless in His sight? What then of one loathsome and foul as a mortal man who drinks wrongdoing like water, as it says in Eov, in Job? How could a mortal conceive of using His holy names as an axe is used for hewing wood? Who would connive to cast his hand on the crown of the kingdom and then dare to use it profanely? Wasn't it our sages who said, anyone who utters the name of Hashem as rendered by its letters has no portion in the world to come? Now, my friends, you see, the Messianic Jews and people into Kabbalah who are not Yireh Shamayim, do not fear God, they're using the name of Hashem in vain. They're saying and pronouncing the names like crazy. They're writing them down, they're erasing them. And we see from here, a person by doing this loses the world to come. It's against the Kabbalah, it's against the Torah to do this. Who teaches them this nonsense? And that's why it's so important to bring forth true Kabbalah, as I'm trying to do here. It was none other than the exalted saint Rabbi Hanina ben Trajan, who, even though he transgressed this prohibition, did not do so for any profane or facile purpose. He wanted only to glorify Him and learn His blessed ways, yet still he was punished. How much truer is it for us who are so poor and ill-equipped? Look at what Hashem Himself has written in His Torah. You shall not swear falsely by the name of Yukevavke, your Hashem. Even though the primary prohibition is against making false oaths, the verse also carries a secondary meaning which teaches us not to use his name in vain. The verse could have taught us the primary prohibition by saying simply, "You shall not swear false oaths in Hashem's name," instead of stating, "You shall not swear falsely by the name of Yekevavke, your Hashem." Both meanings are implied. Moshe, our teacher, peace be with him, learned the secret utterance of Hashem's name from the ministering angels when he went up on high. Yet he needed to caution Israel, stating, "For the name of Hashem I proclaim, they may only give glory to Hashem." If the angels on high are admonished not to mention the name of the blessed Hashem, how much truer for mere mortals who will someday rot in graves. How much more offense would it be for one who had been tempted for his own designs to use profanely the crown of their Creator, especially in these days when no one is expert in mentioning the holy names and in practical uses of their application. Such people will bring upon themselves their own ruin, as the sages have stated. Anyone who does not tend towards the glorification of his Creator would be better off as having not been created. Heed my voice, my son, and lend your ears to my counsel. My son, if sinners entice you, do not yield, as it says in Proverbs 1:10. If they say, "Come along and we will give you the names and incantations which can be practically employed," my son, do not go along with them. Keep your feet from following their path, for those names and their applications are really a trawl for catching souls that will only lead to ruin. Our sages truly possess the holy names as received from the prophets, like the 72-letter name and the 42-letter name and the 12-letter name, as well as many other sacred names. They could have produced signs and wonders, yet they made use of them only during times of oppression and for the sanctification of Hashem's name. Rabbi Meir, for example, saved his sister-in-law from being confined to a brothel by telling the Gentile guard, "If you help me, then every time you will find yourself in trouble, say the Yukevavke of Rabbi Meir, answer me, and you will be saved." Even though he had given this formula to the Gentile to save his sister, Rabbi Meir himself was in need, and he refrained from uttering the holy name and opted to run away instead. Thus we have it recounted in the first chapter of Avodah Zarah. And I'll add to this, Rabbi Nachman, he has a Sefer Amidos where he speaks about sacred things, and he says, even though I'm teaching segulas, I personally didn't make use of them. Okay, so if a person is going to make use of them, and there's different cultures and different derechs with this, but a person who, if they're going to, it has to be completely for the right reasons, lishma, for the sake of coming close to God, and rectification, and one has to be very careful with it, and have tremendous respect for the holy names of Hashem. Similarly, the story of Choni HaMagel, or the matter of Rava and King Sabur, who was told in the tractate, which we learn in the tractate Tanis, in the Talmud, or in the case of David, when he dug the foundations of the temple, and the deep waters rose and threatened to flood the world, as recorded in Sanhedrin, in the Yerushalmi Talmud. It was within the parameters of our historical covenant, however, that those who want their needs fulfilled by employing the holy name should try with all their strength to comprehend the meaning of each name of Hashem as they are recorded in the Torah, namely names such as Ekya, Ka, Yukevavke, Adna, Kel, Lok, Elokim, Shakai, Tzevakot. One should be aware that all the names mentioned in the Torah are the keys for anything a person needs in the world. Now notice that when I mention these names, I did not pronounce them in the correct fashion. We do not say Hashem's name in vain, which is the wrongful acts by people who are exploring Kabbalah without a proper teacher, without the God-fearingness that one needs. Okay? So one should be aware that these names are the keys for anything a person needs in the world. There's not just simple names. They have channels, and they direct and they bring down blessing. When one contemplates these names, one will understand that all of the Torah and the commandments are dependent upon them. Then when he knows the purpose of every name, he will realize the greatness of he who spoke, and thus the world came into being. He will be fearful before him, and he will yearn to cleave to him through his blessed names. Then he will be close to Hashem, and his petition will be accepted, as is written, I will keep him safe, for he knows my name. When he calls to me, I will answer him. So there is a chachma, there is a wisdom to understanding the names of Hashem and what their power is, and what their channels are. And through this, by knowing Hashem's name, Hashem will answer a person on the day that they call. When you're praying, you're going to understand what you're really invoking in your prayers. So there's a chachma to this. There's a deep secret to this. But it's done through fearing God as its foundation. So the verse does not promise safety by merely mentioning his name, but by knowing his name. It is the knowing that is most significant. Only after the knowledge does the verse present the petition. When he calls on me, I will answer. This means that when the time comes, he should know the name that is intrinsically tied to what he needs. Then when he calls, I will answer. You can see this when Yaakov in the time of trouble calls out to Kel Shakai, saying, and may Kel Shakai dispose a man to mercy towards you. It says in Bereshis. Daniel invoked a different name when he prayed for the temple, saying, show your favor for the desolate sanctuary for the sake of Adnah. So even though our Talmudic sages have understood this passage referred to Avram, who called you Adon, the verse nevertheless requires further understanding. One must understand why the name Adnah was specifically invoked. Furthermore, when Hannah prayed that Hashem should send her seed, a different name was invoked, as written, O Yukevavke Savakot, if you will look upon the suffering of your maidservant. Even though our sages have interpreted it a different way in the Talmudic tractate of Brachos, the ultimate interpretation of the verse lies in a more esoteric understanding, which sees the significance of choosing the names Yukevavke Savakot. And I have not come to regale you with various interpretations, but rather to give you the ultimate meaning. Since this is our purpose, we are obligated to fortify you with a foundation of roots and a solid trunk to lean on. Know that all the holy names of the Torah are intrinsically tied to the Targum nation, which is Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei. They're all tied to this name. And if you would contend, however, that the name Ekyeh is the ultimate source, realize that the Targum nation is like the trunk of the tree from which the branches grow, and the name Ekyeh is like the root from which grow the other roots. It is the trunk of the tree that nurtures the branches, which are the other names of Hashem, and each one of these branches bears a different fruit. Note too that all the words in the Torah are connected to one of the inerasable divine names, just as the other cognomens for the different names of Hashem are intrinsically tied to a specific name. For instance, cognomens for the ineffable the Targum nation Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei are Norah, awesome, Noseh Avoin, remover of sin, over al Pesha, ignorer of sin. The cognomens for Kel are Gadol, great, Rachum, merciful, Chanu, and pardoning. The cognomens of Elokim are Adir, mighty, Shofet, judge, Dayan, judge. Just as Kel and Elokim and the Targum nation have cognomens, their cognomens also have cognomens, until one finds that all the words of the Torah are intricately woven in tapestry of Hashem's cognomens, which are tied to Hashem's name, which in turn are tied to the ineffable Targum nation Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, to which all the Torah's words are inextricably linked. Thus, all the Torah is woven with the strands of Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei. For this reason, as is stated, the Torah of Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei is complete, as it says in the Psalms 19:8. Okay, this is why there's a reason why we have Shavisi Hashem L'Negdi Samim. We're supposed to picture Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei as one of the main names that we see when we're walking by the way, to reflect upon Hashem, because this is like the root. This is like the where everything is coming. And Ekyeh is also a root. So the verse teaches that when one understands the rationale for all the holy names and those related to them, and one grasps the cognomens for each of them, then one can see that all is connected to his great blessed name, and he will yearn to cleave to it and fear it. It is only then when one can understand the verse, then you understand the fear of Yukei Vavke and attain knowledge of Hashem. It says in Proverbs. Okay, by understanding the holy names and their secrets, a person gains in Yirah Shamayim, in fear of God. Okay, but they're not going to know how to channel that knowledge until they have true fear of Hashem, and then they can call to Hashem. First, it comes the wisdom of that and the fear, and then a person can channel when they pray, and that's what the tzaddikim, when they pray, they're answered because they know how to channel their prayers. They understand that when they're praying, when certain names of Hashem are used, that it's invoking a certain type of blessing. And so they meditate on this, and they're drawing down through the spheros the blessing that needs to come. So, and a person who understands these things, it says, we learned before, that Hashem answers their prayer by a person who understands the source and understands what the meaning behind the prayers and the names that they're invoking. For only then can he be among those about whom is written, I will keep him safe, for he knows my name. It says in Psalms. Right, nothing can happen to a person bad once a person knows the names of Hashem. It's a protection. So then you understand the terrible punishment for those who utter the name of heaven in vain, not to speak of those who pronounce the sound of the name by its letters, or those who design to use it for magical applications. So there's a big musar, big rectification for people listening who are learning Kabbalah and they're saying the names and they're not fearing God and they're making use of them. They don't understand that you cannot invoke Hashem's name in vain and not use it for magical purposes and strength. It has to be done with God-fearingness and for the purpose of good and lishma, for heaven's sake. Before I introduce the purpose of this piece, I must preface my remarks with these words. First rule, know that the true essence of the blessed Creator cannot be discerned by any other than Him. None of the celestial beings even knows His place, much less His true essence. See what the angels on high say. Blessed is the presence of Yukei Vavke in this place. It says in Ezekiel. Wherever his place may be, if it is thus with the higher beings, how much truer than the lower world? So if all that has been said is true, then what are the words that we read in the Torah that seem to describe Hashem as physical, such as hand, leg, ear, eye, etc.? Realize and believe that even though these terms testify to His truth and His greatness, no creature can begin to understand the meaning of those entities called hand, leg, and ear. Just because we're created in His own image and likeness, don't think that the eye which is written in the Torah is really a human eye, or that the hand is truly a human hand. These terms which are written in the Torah reflect the deepest essence of our blessed Creator. They are the sources of that which emanates to all those under the meaning of blessed name. Yet the hand of the Torah is not the normative hand, nor are they structured in any way similar as is written, to whom can be compared, as it says in Isaiah. Be well aware that there is no structure or essential similarity between us mortals and those terms in the Torah. The reason for the use of human form is to create signposts for memory. These exalted, incomprehensible concepts can be known by name only, like the words Reuven, the son of Yaakov. These letters do not contain the form and essence of Reuven, the son of Yaakov. Instead, they merely signify that this is Reuven, the son of Yaakov, Jacob. What is written is merely a sign which refers to the physical essence of Reuven, the son of Yaakov. Since Hashem wanted to favor us, He created the human body with revealed and concealed organs which reflect the constellation of divine emanation. If a person succeeds in purifying one of the limbs or organs, that same limb or organ will become a throne for that celestial entity which bears the same name, whether it can be an eye, a hand, or any other limb. For example, a person is careful never to look at anything of the senses nature or anything else which is spiritually repulsive, but rather looks only at Hashem's holiness and for ways to serve Him, then his eye becomes a throne for that celestial entity which is known as I. So it is with the hand, one's foot, and all the other limbs. Our sages are referring to this when they wrote the forefathers are the constellation. They could have written that our forefathers were each separate constellation, but instead they wrote the forefathers. For instead, Father Avram took the right side of impurity. He is inheriting the celestial right side, which is the quality of chesed, loving kindness, as written. Then Avram journeyed by the sages in the Negev. Okay, so when we fix these characteristics, when we fix these blessings that we have been given, then we therefore perfect that on high, and we are given that as a gift, a certain channel, a certain holiness in those limbs. And so therefore we have to go and reach a purity and perfection in our physical body by using it for the sake of Hashem and guarding it. Isaac received the left side of fear and purity, as is written, and Yaakov swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Yaakov, however, took the middle path, as is written. And Yaakov was a mild man who dwelled in tents, between the tents of Avram and Yitzchak. It says in Bereshis. From this we see that the three forefathers serve as a throne for the divine constellation, which allows for the whole to be perfected and formed in this foundation, right? So Avram is the right side, chesed, kindness. Yitzchak is the left side, gevura. Tiferes, Yaakov, beauty. Torah is in the middle, a balance. Now we must enlighten you on the subject that is related to one we have just discussed. Be aware that all activity is intrinsically tied to your limbs and organs. For example, the eye is connected to sight, the ear to hearing, the hand to touch, and the leg to walking. Since our sages have referred to Hashem in human terms of activity, one must consider this language to be metaphorical, as we have explained in the references to ear, hand, and foot. Even though we will be using these terms throughout this composition, be careful not to infer from these terms that Hashem can be measured, that He can be limited in any way. Just as His eye, ear has no likeness in this world, thus it is with the way He acts. Our sages refer to the names of Hashem as midos, attributes, as is recounted in the tractate Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Yehuda said, a covenant has been made that the 13 attributes of Hashem, when mentioned in prayer, will not return unattended. As is written, I hereby make a covenant, as it says in Shemos. The 13 attributes enumerated are Yukei Vavke, Kel, Chanun, V'Rachum. The Hashem, compassion and gracious, slow to anger, abundant in kindness, faithfulness, extending kindness to the 1,000th generation, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin, as it says in Shemos. Yet you must believe that aside from the words themselves, there is no other similarity between the attributes of Hashem and our behavior, as our sages have written throughout the Talmud. See how the attributes of Hashem are not like the attributes of flesh and blood. These attributes, we use reference to them because we have to learn from them. Okay, we just finished Tomer Devorah, and we have to learn from the attributes and midos of Hashem. But Hashem is beyond, and it's infinity and of infinity of these aspects. We can't describe Hashem for these aspects. It's just the only way we can understand it at a low level is to use these to use this as a reference point. So after we have given over the keys contained in this introduction to you, we must now go forth and explain each of the holy names as they are written in the Torah. We must enlighten your eyes concerning every place where they may be found, so that you will understand and be aware of the well of living waters which flows from all His blessed names. And when you grasp this message, you will succeed in all your ways, and you will be enlightened. So I'm stopping at this introduction because it's a very long book, and it's very, very, very deep, and I don't know that this is the place. But I wanted to open your heart to understand that when you say the names of Hashem in your prayer, that they're much, much deeper. You see different names being used at different times. So understand that there's a source, there's a wellspring of this, and recognize this, and think of the holiness of the names that you're saying in whatever level you are, and grow to slowly understand them better. And then your prayer will be accepted. You'll know how to channel your prayer better. So like he said here, and when you grasp this message, this is an important message that Rev Gekaya is trying to send us, then you will succeed in your ways and you'll be enlightened. You're going to find enlightenment by respecting the names of Hashem with fear, with understanding at our level of their shefa, their blessing, their channels, and their uses. And we see just the beauty of just the lashon, the words from Rav Kekalia to awaken our hearts to want to come close to Hashem. This is the reason I chose this, just to bring some enlightenment, some enthusiasm into our Torah study, into our life. And so when we find Hashem in all the things we do, and Hashem is there in all things, Shalom, shalom. Thank you for coming. And please share this. Shalom, shalom.